Petro Caribe continues to make its mark in Dominica. See how agriculture retail standards are being upped in the Laplaine Constituency, and 25 graduate from a summer functional music program. Thanks for joining us on another edition of National Focus. I'm your presenter, Nisha Charles.
And I'm Kerdisha. Stay with us for details of these and other stories after the break.
Do you have uncovered water storage drums around your home? Do you dispose of old tires, cans and old containers capable of holding water anywhere in your environment? Are you being bitten by mosquitoes, particularly at dusk and early morning? Do you keep houseplants in water? Do you spend your hard-earned cash to control mosquitoes? Has your community experienced dengue fever outbreaks? If your answer is yes to at least 3 questions above, you are at risk to dengue fever. Join the fight against dengue fever. The responsibility for a dengue-free Dominica lies with you. So, get rid of the Aedes aegypti mosquito.
You're watching GIS.
Thanks for staying with us. The vision of the late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez to assist Caribbean nations with their socio-economic development through the Petro Caribe Agreement will continue to live on. Those words came from the Dominica leader, Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, while addressing the closing ceremony for activities marking the 10th anniversary of the Petro Caribe Agreement last Friday. The nation's leader gave an account of how it all began.
I recall many years ago when I was called by President Chavez to come to Cuba to meet with himself and President Fidel Castro to discuss, among the 3 of us, a very important initiative, an initiative for economic cooperation, an initiative for integration. And I flew to Cuba and met with these 2 distinguished gentlemen. And they shared with me a proposal. Now, the intention of President Chavez at the time was to supply, free of cost, petroleum products to member states. And that the proceeds from that arrangement would be used to assist with the economic and social advancement of participating member states. And Fidel, in his usual brilliance, came up with a formula that would allow member states to receive 100% of the petroleum products, and that there will be a structured approach if the price went up in the market at a particular price, where either 60 or 70% would be paid or 40% would be paid, and the countries would hold back some of those funds.
Dominica was one of the first countries to sign onto the agreement on June 29, 2005, to supply Venezuelan crude oil to countries in the Caribbean region at discounted prices. Since then, 19 countries have signed onto the agreement. Honorable Minister responsible for Petro Caribe, Reginald Austri, says Dominica has indeed benefited tremendously from that agreement.
And we can begin by looking at the Jimit storage facility. 10 years ago, that was like a forest. Today, we have a modern oil facility, in spite of the fact that we don't have oil and we don't trade in oil. But more importantly, we have been able to create employment, permanent employment, for over 30 of our citizens. We can speak to events south of us in Soufriere, Scott said. And for those of you who are old like me, remember that once the hurricane season came, the people of Soufriere and Scott were packing their bags and moving into the hills because they didn't dare stay on the seashore because the sea always entered into Soufriere and Scott's Head. Today you have this massive sea defense wall, just like the Great Wall of China, that nothing can move it. Nothing can move it. And so the people of Soufriere and Scott's Head can now sleep in peace during the hurricane season, all through Petro Caribe.
PDV Caribe Dominica Limited embarked on a number of activities throughout the months of June and July to increase health awareness and engage schools and rural communities in the work being undertaken by the company over the last 10 years. General Manager of PDV Caribe Dominica Limited, Henry Blanco, says the company will continue to enhance and support the socio-economic development of member countries, including Dominica.
In Dominica, we continue supporting the elderly, providing free LPG. We continue to support the housing revolution, continue to make valuable monetary contributions toward education, healthcare, and infrastructural development, not forgetting the vast amount of social projects in Dominica. In 2008, we won the first bid to supply diesel to Domlec. Today, we have over 25 diesel customers, approximately 60 LPG agents, and 6 fuel fisheries stations around Dominica, becoming the leader supplier of hydrocarbon products. We also have a state-of-art plant with the highest international safety standards.
Over the 10-year period, the Petro Caribe agreement has not only brought cheaper crude oil to Dominica, but has impacted every aspect of the Dominican economy. These are evidenced through the housing revolution, the Tatan Sea Defense Wall, the Fishers fueling stations across the island, the coffee plant in Portsmouth, the abattoir in Layu Park, among others. And so, Kerdisha, it's been 10 years since the Petro Caribe agreement in Dominica, and you know it's very dear to the Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit. And this is evident because, for one thing, it was the vision of the late President of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, whom he had a very personal relationship with, and Chavez wanted him to be part of the agreement initially. You know, and in the beginning, even people in Dominica and the region criticized the Prime Minister for coming onto the agreement, but the visionary leaders saw that it would be very useful for Dominica and its economy going forward, and we see over a 10-year period that it has actually paid off.
That's right. We can see investments in terms of, as they said, employment, you know, people working at the Petro Caribe plants, you know, fishing, housing, the Petro Casas, of course, and sports and culture. So it's not a thing where they're just involved in providing oil, but they have an investment in Dominica, and that says a lot.
And I want to highlight the Housing Revolution program because Petro Caribe funded an initial $30 million into that program, and in the beginning they wanted to have 5,000 homes go up, and to date over 4,000 homes have gone up.
And so I'm even excited to see what other things they have in plan, because in such a short time span, because 10 years is a very short time span, so much has been done. So I'm sure that we here in Dominica are looking forward to the future and more investments from Venezuela.
Yes, and Petro Caribe.
That's right. 25 students are now proficient in the fundamentals of music as graduates of a 2-week summer functional music program. In its second year, the program is coordinated by music teacher Ian Jackson. During the closing ceremony held on Friday, the 11th of June, Jackson noted that the progress made by students over the 2 weeks were remarkable.
It was encouraging to see the enthusiasm shown by most, as in the early mornings, the students themselves helped themselves to carry and set up instruments ready for the day's program. Very few knew much about music, far less playing an instrument, and so the introductory sessions by Mrs. Sentile on music appreciation and theory during the first part of every morning educated many, and one could even see those under 10 warming up to rhythm and percussive instruments.
Jackson hopes that the program will develop into a permanent music teaching institution.
It is my vision for this exercise to be a permanent school of music, as in the mold of Kyrie School of Music some 2 decades ago. I trust that when the relevant authorities and the relative approaches are made for funding through funding agents, that it will be seen as a requirement in a country blessed with musical talent waiting to blossom.
The program began on June 29th and was facilitated by tutors such as Julie Mate, Huguette Sanhilia, Danny Robin, and Jackson himself. Classes included theory sessions on guitars, drums, keyboard, and bass guitar, followed by the practical.
In more news, the Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the Laplaine Constituency, Peter Caribe, wants all to know that the Plaisance Road, which he describes as a sore point for him, is now complete and motorable. Honorable Seja and no doubt residents have long anticipated the completion of that piece of infrastructure.
Thankfully, we've seen the completion of the project, and right now the people of the Lower Plaisance area into Corridor have a brand new road that has improved the access to farm holdings and to residents in the area. Thankfully, the monies were made available through our constituency, Ministry of Constituency Empowerment, and the people are indeed happy. And for me as PAL rep, it is another big accomplishment for the Laplaine constituency, and more particularly Laplaine village.
You're watching National Focus. Still to come, the Laplaine police station finally complete. Stay with us.
Children, remember, adults should not ask you to keep secrets that make you feel uncomfortable.
For more information on child abuse or to report suspected cases on child abuse, contact the Social Welfare Division on 33 Great Marlborough Street or call 266-3020 or 266-3080.
Welcome back. Police officers based in Laplaine are now comfortably settled in their new quarters in the center of the community. The constituency, which has been without a real police station since 1979, now has a base for community security, and the government, effective May, no longer rents accommodations for law enforcement in that area. Work on the $3 million project began in January 2014, employing 15 men under the supervision of the Public Works Division. When GIS News and the Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the constituency, Petro Caribe, looked at developments in the area, the new Laplaine police station was on the agenda.
The residents complained, and consistently there was a chorus of complaint that the police officers are not visible in the community. And so people were of the view that let us hope that when they move into the facility that we will see them. I must report though that there has been a presence of the police in uniform, which is a good thing, because unlike what happened, you would only see a police officer around the school junction. But right now I see them in the village, and importantly, every time I drive past the police station, I see the police officers in uniform. So it means that they are catching the vision. I'm not sure if it is the building that has done that, but if that is the case, then I would expect that to continue.
Corporal Earl Fountain is one of the officers based in Laplaine. He says the new accommodations are contributing to job satisfaction and performance.
Since the men have moved into the new station, this has greatly enhanced their morale, and the community likewise has expressed great interest, and they're seeing that the police are more involved in the community. The ambience, it's new for one, compared to the other station, and it has all the amenities.
Honorable Seja is aware of the impact on both officers and, more importantly, the communities.
The reviews have been very positive. My interaction with the police officers, of course, naturally they are very happy, and I can only hope that this facility will serve as a motivation for the officers to ensure that they do what they are expected to.
With that comes a renewed call to the community to join law enforcement and engage in community policing. This police base serves the communities of Laplaine, Grand Fort, Monjon, Rivière-Syrique, and Boitica. It is hoped that the building will be officially commissioned in the coming weeks.
The Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the Laplaine constituency, Petro Caribe, is making moves to make the handling and sale of produce in his constituency safer and more standardized. This sterile facility, erected in consultation with the Dominica Bureau of Standards, will serve as a market center for fresh meat and produce for the entire Southeast. With funding from the Basic Needs Trust Fund, the center features a small office, an area for the sale of fresh meat and livestock, washrooms, wash areas, and even a ramp to allow for vehicles to be easily loaded and unloaded.
This project was conceptualized by the Southeast Association of Village Councils. That is the village councils from Delis through to Grand Fort. At the time, they identified the need of setting up a market square where farmers, producers from the various villages would have a central location where they could dispense of their produce.
According to contractor Kenry Matthew, only electricity and water remain to be installed. Meanwhile, the new Southeast Market only awaits commissioning, which is expected to take place by the end of the year. Right next to this new facility stands an old one, for which plans are in place. This is the old Dexia packing shed, decommissioned since 1979. Honorable Peter Seja says a $20,000 plan will see this structure remodeled and repurposed.
We are now in discussions with Dexia. We have identified some $20,000 for the upgrade of that Dexia building.
The packing shed will be leased to a well-known and productive huckster from the area who will be meeting some of the refurbishing costs.
We are designing the lease, preparing the lease in such a way that while the gentleman and his enterprise would be the main users of the facility, that there is a clause that makes provision for other individuals who wish to use the facility.
The goal is that the upgraded facility, as well as the new Southeast Market, will improve the standard of agriculture, retail, and handling in the Southeast.
This will enhance the mode of delivery. Well, first of all, packaging, handling, packaging, and actual delivery as far as sales is concerned. Because, of course, there has always been the concern that when farmers sell to the public, that given what is happening globally, that they need to meet the standards. And so this building has been designed in conjunction, in collaboration with the Bureau of Standards to meet international standards. So we expect to see a much improvement in the whole manner in which farmers, individuals handle, deliver, and sell to the public.
Summarily, Honorable Seja, as a farmer himself since the 80s, has long looked forward to a time like this when the Laplaine community and constituency would be positioned for the optimum success of the agriculture industry.
For me, as an individual, a resident of Laplaine and a farmer, this is a long-awaited project because it speaks to gradual movement, positive movement within the community, that we have come from a long way, and today we can now package, well, wash, sort, grade, package our produce in a facility that meets international standards. So for me as an individual, and of course as PAL rep, it is a big thing for us here in the Laplaine area in the southeast of Dominica.
Informative, interactive, exciting. These are just some of the words participants as well as facilitators used to describe an intensive training for health and family life educators conducted last week. The training, which ran from July 6 to 10, saw the participation of 48 HFLE educators from across the country. At the closing ceremony on Friday, Education Officer in the Ministry of Education and coordinator of the training workshop, Rena John Charles, declared the participants ready to make a positive impact on their students. She gave an overview of the week's activities.
The one-week HFLE training course, which began on July 6, 2015, ends today with this closing ceremony. The objective of the training was, 1, to provide information education around the 4 major theme areas or thematic areas forming the foundation of HFLE, to increase knowledge of content. Secondly, to increase self-awareness of teachers, to the obstacles contributing to teacher discomfort in teaching the subject in order to strengthen teacher skill, confidence, and comfort level. And finally, to provide information to aid in the delivery of age-appropriate lessons to students.
John Charles said some of the core areas looked at included self-awareness for the HFLE teachers, spirituality, behavior modification techniques, bullying, alcohol and drug abuse, how to identify and report physical and sexual abuse, and nutrition.
These trainings are of no significance if after you leave this room, you have no use for it. You can choose to return to the classroom in the same old way, or you can choose to transfer the information, applying the methods and strategies learned here this past week into the classroom, changing the climate of your classroom with energy, excitement, passion, and confidence, both in your ability to deliver the lessons and in yourself as an HFLE teacher.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Marcella Powell, said the enthusiasm of the educators was indicative of their willingness to assist the Ministry of Education in advancing its agenda of each child succeeds. She indicated that the education system is all-inclusive and is continually working to ensure the success of every student.
We are confident that the health and family life education curriculum used in our schools will help our students learn skills they will use to make healthy choices throughout their lifetime. These extend to the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, injury prevention, mental and emotional health, nutrition, physical activity, prevention of diseases, and sexuality and family life. Within the Ministry of Education, we have, through the Health and Family Life Education Office, concentrated efforts on growing the program within our primary schools to ensure that all students are exposed to information that assists them in becoming responsible citizens.
The Permanent Secretary commended those involved in conducting the workshop, saying that it was a huge success. She said it's now left to the teachers to apply what they have learned by becoming teachers in the classroom. One teacher had the opportunity to share her experience.
This week for me has been more than just HFLE. For me, it has been about equipping our students with life skills in this evolving and changing society. And whether we want to, our society is evolving, and somehow we have to cope. One of our words for today, cope, because we heard it a lot this morning. We have to cope with the changes that are coming. It has been about bringing the students' issues and our own issues to the fore so that we can adequately find solutions to deal with the everyday challenges and problems that we find in the classroom. And we're not going to stick our heads in the sand anymore or play possum, because these challenges are plentiful and they're there. It makes no sense to keep hiding it. So we learned this week how to deal with some of the, should we call them problem children? Or the children with problem behaviors that we have in the classroom.
The one-week intensive HFLE workshop was held in collaboration with UNICEF. Why learning a new language is good for you, coming up next.
Did you know the Caribbean Court of Justice is 2 courts in 1? The CCJ has 2 functions: an original jurisdiction, which deals with your right to move between CARICOM countries freely, and your right to move your money and your business. This is the basis of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, and the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, and an appellate jurisdiction to hear appeals from courts of those countries which decide to use it as their final court of appeal and no longer go to the Privy Council. All CARICOM member states who have signed the agreement establishing the CCJ are members of the CCJ.
You're watching GIS.
Learning a foreign language has a whole new system of distinct rules and meanings. Learning a new language sharpens your skills on reading, negotiating, and problem solving.
Learning a new language can delay the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, and the more the brain is used, the better it works. Performance in other academic areas is also enhanced.
And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm.
Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica, and follow our Twitter at GIS Dominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. From all of us here on the GIS News Desk, I'm Kerdisha St. Louis.
And I'm Nisha Charles. Thanks for watching, and do join us again next time on National Focus.